It's been quite a while since we talked about a particular Pokemon typing going extinct, and I think today is as good a day as any to get back into that topic. Today, talking about the fire typing. It's one of the most iconic in the franchise, with Charizard acting as the poster boy for the type in general, and that makes it even more interesting to me. Could you imagine a Pokemon world without Charizard, Infernape, Volcarona, and others? It wouldn't just be a wild change of the in-game world, but would certainly adversely affect the fan base, right?
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, Prime. I think the fire typing may single-handedly be the most popular of all the types, even beating out the likes of Dragon, so having them wiped off the face of the planet would have serious consequences. For starters, well, the starters. A third of some of the most beloved Pokemon would just be gone and would create some obvious difficulties in choosing a suitable replacement. Electric would be the obvious elemental choice, but it doesn't really create a smooth typing triangle that the grass, fire, and water typings create. So I imagine the professors would probably just want to scrap that and go with the popular psychic fighting and dark type alternatives. But I guess before we get too deep into potential consequences, let's try to figure out how an event like this would even occur.
Well, there are some very interesting routes to go here, but we can stick to the basics. If we want to look into the canon aspects of the games, Team Aqua tried very hard to release Kyogre into the Hoenn region, and probably inevitably the world, which would have ended up flooding everything, literally everything. I have to figure that it would end up extinguishing tons of fire types if they had no actual land to live on, and even for the ones that fly in the sky, like your Charizards and Talonflames, well, they'll have constantly heavy rain, and probably quite a bit of lightning to deal with, which is gonna screw them up big time. I mean, I guess it'd be possible for, like, Volcanion to get by, seeing as it's, water-fire type, but all others of the fire variety? Forget about it. They're gonna be not just in rough shape, but undoubtedly tons of species will probably be wiped out by the vicious, never-ending torrential downpours and elevated flooding.
Now, one thing I'd like to mention here is that I don't think that this just means all of the Pokemon of that type just go away completely. I mean, sure, maybe some do, but as we know with regional variants, Pokemon are constantly evolving in one way or another in order to survive. So maybe you just might see a Water Dragon Charizard or a Rock-type Darmanitan. I'd have to imagine plenty of them would go the route of becoming Rock or Steel type, and maybe even a lot of them becoming Ghost type. Another event I could see happening here is another scenario of a typing becoming the cause of its own demise. With areas of the world constantly getting hotter, you could imagine this might be a good thing for the fire types. But maybe this is a scenario of too much of a good thing being bad, actually. Perhaps they are filled with such overwhelming power that it starts wiping out their habitat and what they rely on for sustenance. This wouldn't be too dissimilar to things like overpopulation problems, but instead of an increase in creatures, you're dealing with an increase of a very destructive force of nature.
What that could end up meaning for the world would be, of course, a distinct lack of greenery. Grass-type and bug-type Pokemon in general would end up taking a huge hit to their habitats, and many of them would undoubtedly be unable to handle the heat and probably die out as well. A Pokemon like Scovillain might end up being able to survive thanks to having the fire typing itself, and naturally Volcarona would more than likely be a part of the whole losing complete control over its firepower deal. There would also probably end up being an insane amount of smoke that would fill the air, inevitably hurting flying type Pokemon as it becomes harder for them to navigate through the smoke, and probably will end up grounding them even. I do suppose this could be a nice outcome for our rock and ground types, maybe even the steel types too. They don't really need the world to be in any particular way, and if grass and water is being adversely affected by the heat, then what's there for them to fear? I guarantee they could live on in harmony with the steel types, and I don't see how the fighting types are just going to be able to get by in the fiery hellscape that the world will become. So many different typings could be brought to the brink of their own extinction just by the fire typing being too strong.
I think it's also interesting to look at how a lot of different typings would thrive with the fire typing going extinct. In that scenario, assuming the bug and grass types didn't completely perish before the fire typing did, I'd have to imagine they would end up thriving significantly, possibly becoming even stronger in the process. I think grass is typically okay on its own, but bug and ice getting that extra bump could mean a world of difference for them. And then there's the issue of the steel typing only becoming even stronger, losing one of its most significant weaknesses. I mean, that's a world in which Pokemon like Scizor, Ferrothorn, Kartana, and Genesect have either no weaknesses at all or only one in fighting. And that's pretty terrifying if you ask me.
Absolutely. The fire typing no longer being around would just enhance certain typings to a crazy degree. I don't want to see Ferrothorn without a 4x check, man. Ugh. That would just be one of the most annoying things anyone could really run up on. However, as we start to wrap things up on this idea, I want to bring things around one more time to what I last said. The idea that the fire typing becomes so powerful that even those fire type Pokemon themselves can no longer control anything. they'd set fire to literally everything, burning the planet to a crisp and creating an insane amount of smoke in the atmosphere. It wouldn't even make the planet cooler, as the continued building of fire would just keep the heat level rising even if the sun was blocked out. Why, after so long, you can make the argument that Earth would end up approaching the heat levels of the sun itself, and inevitably we'll have to just wipe out all living beings on the planet. It's actually a scary thought, but fire typing really is the most destructive one out there, isn't it? They could lead to the end of our planet and not just themselves. And I'm not too sure any other typing could make that happen.
Yeah, the more elemental typings, if you will, are definitely no joke, and are ones that you want to keep in check. But I guess the question we have here now is, how realistic is it that they would actually go extinct? Well, I think for the most part, it's not likely to happen anytime soon. Thankfully, Team Aqua failed in their endeavors, at least in this universe, and global climate change shouldn't cause them to be too powerful before wiping us all out for at least a century or so. So we've got plenty of time, right? That being said, I think we're safe. For now. But at the very least, if the fire typings do go down, we're probably going to go down with them, and wouldn't have to live in that hellscape for too long.
Yeah, you got that right. I'm actually very glad that I'm a Kabutops in this moment. I mean, I get to be a rock and a water type that's 4 times resistant to fire. So if this were to happen, I could probably get by. And maybe that's one reason why I should just never be turned back into a human again. Though, that would be getting in the way of your scientific endeavors, so let me not think that way, huh, buddy?
Yeah, we don't want you messing up my master plan. And what is that master plan, you might ask? Well, even I don't know. That's how genius it is. You shut your stinking mouth! Anyhow, what do you all think? Do you believe the fire type will doom us all, or are we being a little paranoid? Be sure to let us know in the comment section below. And with that said, I am Collecticus Dexterous.
And I'm the Primutops Max Erective.
And we will see you all next time.